Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Buckle up, because the global oil market just hit a major roadblock. OPEC's latest production cuts have thrown America's energy dominance into question. For years, the US seemed poised to lead the global energy market thanks to its shale oil boom. But geopolitical tensions and the rise of electric vehicles are changing the game. Could this be the beginning of the end for US oil supremacy? Stay tuned as we break down 7 key reasons why OPEC's latest move could reshape the global oil landscape, and why the US oil industry could be in serious trouble. Reason number 7. OPEC's strategic power play. OPEC's latest production cut is a calculated move to regain control of the global oil market. Saudi Arabia and Russia, the dominant forces in OPEC+, have coordinated efforts to reduce supply and push prices higher. On March 3, 2025, OPEC+ announced a production increase of 138,000 barrels per day for April, the first since 2022. But it's part of a larger strategy to maintain leverage. By tightening supply, OPEC aims to maximize profits and dictate market conditions. This puts direct pressure on the US, which hit a record crude oil production of 13.49 million barrels per day in December 2024. If prices rise too much, inflation could spike, putting more strain on the Trump administration's economic policies. It's a risky game. High prices could collapse global demand. But for now, OPEC holds the upper hand, and the US oil industry is left to react. But OPEC's control over supply isn't the only challenge facing the US oil market. A shift in consumer demand is adding even more pressure. Reason number 6. EVs and renewables, a slow but steady threat. While OPEC focuses on supply, the bigger threat to oil lies in weakening demand. Global electric vehicle (EV) sales are projected to jump 18% in 2025, surpassing 20 million units. This surge, combined with increased renewable energy adoption, is chipping away at long-term oil demand. Automakers like Tesla, BYD, and Volkswagen are ramping up EV production, while governments push aggressive carbon reduction targets. The Trump administration aims to cut emissions by at least 50% by 2030, a shift that could weaken oil's market grip. Oil remains essential for aviation, shipping, and petrochemicals, but rising EV adoption and renewable energy competitiveness could permanently reduce oil's dominance. Ironically, OPEC's strategy of raising prices might accelerate this shift. Higher fuel costs make EVs more appealing. The US oil sector now faces a two-front battle: OPEC's market control and declining demand from a changing energy landscape. As EV adoption rises, US oil producers are feeling the heat, but rising production costs are adding even more pressure. Reason number 5. Shale oil's tough road ahead. US shale oil has driven America's energy independence for over a decade, but that success is under threat. Shale production is expensive, and companies like Chevron and ExxonMobil are struggling with rising costs due to inflation and supply chain issues. Adding to the challenge, environmental, social, and governance (ESG) standards have made it harder for oil companies to secure financing. Higher oil prices might seem like a win for US producers, but it's a double-edged sword. If prices climb too high, global demand could shrink, cutting into profits and triggering layoffs across the industry. OPEC's market control is squeezing US producers, making it harder for them to remain competitive. Some experts warn that US shale is on the brink of collapse, while others believe improved drilling technology could keep it afloat. Either way, the future of American shale oil hangs in the balance. But it's not just about market conditions. Geopolitical tensions are adding another layer of complexity. Before we venture further, we'd appreciate it if you could hit that like and that subscribe button. This supports us in connecting with more auto aficionados just like you. Now let's change lanes and navigate towards our next point. Reason number 4. Saudi-Russia alliance, a geopolitical power play. OPEC's latest production cuts aren't just about market control. They're a geopolitical statement. Saudi Arabia and Russia have strengthened their alliance, united by a shared goal of reducing America's influence in the global energy market. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has made it clear that Riyadh will prioritize its own interests over U.S. demands. Meanwhile, Russia's ongoing conflict with Ukraine has further strained relations with Washington. By tightening supply, Saudi Arabia and Russia are increasing inflationary pressure in the U.S., weakening the dollar and undermining American economic dominance. The message is clear: OPEC won't be pressured into submission. Higher oil prices could destabilize the global economy, but for now, Saudi Arabia and Russia are holding the upper hand in this geopolitical chess match, and the U.S. is struggling to counter their moves. As geopolitical pressure mounts, America's safety net, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, is looking alarmingly thin. Reason number 3, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, America's weak spot. To combat rising oil prices, the Biden administration has leaned on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, SPR. But that backup plan is running dry. By early 2025, the SPR had dropped to its lowest level since the early 1980s, leaving the U.S. with limited options to stabilize the market. If OPEC continues to tighten supply, the U.S. could face higher fuel costs and increased inflation, putting even more strain on American consumers and the economy. The problem? The government's ability to respond is shrinking, and OPEC knows it. Without a strong reserve, the U.S. is losing leverage in the global oil market. Saudi Arabia and Russia hold the advantage, and the weakened SPR gives them even more power to dictate market conditions. The U.S. is running out of moves, and OPEC is playing the long game. And if that wasn't enough, internal policy conflicts are adding more instability to the mix. Reason number 2, climate policy pressure, a tightrope act. The Trump administration's push for renewable energy is a long-term play, but it's squeezing U.S. oil producers in the short term. Stricter environmental regulations and mounting public pressure to cut carbon emissions are driving up production costs. Meanwhile, OPEC's supply cuts are raising the cost of imported oil, forcing U.S. policymakers into a tough spot. Should they prioritize energy independence or stick to climate goals? This policy conflict creates uncertainty for American oil producers, making it harder to plan long-term investments. If costs keep rising and demand for oil weakens, the U.S. risks losing ground in the global energy market. Balancing energy security and sustainability is becoming a major challenge, and OPEC is watching closely. The oil market is evolving fast, and the U.S. might not be able to keep up. Reason number 1, a permanent shift in the global oil market. OPEC's latest strategy highlights a major shift in the global oil market, and the U.S. may not recover its dominance. OPEC's influence is growing, while the rise of EVs and renewable energy is steadily eroding long-term oil demand. U.S. shale oil once gave America the power to challenge OPEC's control, but that edge is fading. Higher production costs and tightening market conditions are making it harder for American producers to compete. The real question isn't whether OPEC can hurt the U.S., it's whether the U.S. oil industry can adapt fast enough to survive in a changing energy landscape. The road ahead. Can U.S. oil keep up? OPEC's strategy isn't just about market control. It's a direct challenge to America's energy dominance. The U.S. oil industry faces rising costs, geopolitical pressure, and weakening demand from the rise of EVs and renewables. Can American producers adapt, or is this the beginning of the end for U.S. energy supremacy? What do you think? Is the U.S. oil industry on the brink of collapse, or will it bounce back stronger? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more updates from your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Thanks for watching and see you next time.